Just kidding. There's only 7 people here. Ooh. Thank you for being here. Sorry, just give me a second. I don't know why this is important, but it's really a weird thing. So this is a side. You don't have to tape this. You can just edit this out. Because I'm not starting yet. But a long time ago, just because there are very many people here, and this is just a really weird fact, I once got tickets to go to Regis and Kelly. Does everybody remember that show, Regis and Kelly? It was like a big deal. I was in New York City. My friend got me these tickets, and my girlfriend and I went, and we were so excited because he thought maybe we'll be on TV. And what I learned about the audiences is they're literally like, look around, they're about this size, right? And we don't know that watching from our couch. And so we got clapping lessons, which I don't know if they actually give clapping lessons. And I was like, why? Why would you do that? And they were like, well, just clap normally. And I'm going to ask you guys, just clap normally, like pretend I just came out, la, 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 hey. Okay. They said, what we want you to do is clap faster, not clap harder. So I was like, what? That's so weird. So we're going to try that again. So, hey, everybody, blah, blah, blah. Now clap faster. And they were, look at your face. What? Okay. So my girlfriend and I were like, this is unbelievable. Like, I don't have to hurt, because we were like, yeah, like, we're so excited. And they're like, don't wear out your hands because you're going to be excited. You don't have to clap harder, clap faster. So this is not going to be burned in your brains. And so we were doing this. And of course, me being me, I take everything super literally. So every time the clap sign comes on, I am like this, and we're just like huddled, and I'm working up a sweat. I'm clapping so fast, which again, I take things very literally. And our family, we told them we got tickets, so like look for us in the audience. Well, wouldn't you know it? We got a good 15-seconder of my girlfriend and I, and all I got were phone calls and emails about like, what was wrong with you guys? You guys were like freaking out or something. And so anyway, there's a little funny story. But yeah, clap faster, not louder, or clap faster, not louder. Anyway, thank you for coming out in the snow and being here. And this isn't quite take 2 of the unicorn story, but my husband did send me out of the house and said, have fun throwing me under the bus again. And I was like, okay, I will do that. Now he's a really good sport because I'm often speaking about him. With lots of love. And so in my bio, there's a couple of hints about what I'm talking about today, like that Winston shared. And one thing that I'm talking about is that one thing that I've learned in my life is that life brings us opportunities for learning and growth in 2 ways. We're either invited to make a mess or be a mess. But the truth is, see, we love a good meme. We love a good meme. We love a good thing on Facebook, a good inspirational, catchy phrase that we're like, yes, that's so good. And I am like a machine for these things. So I often speak about bless the mess and trust the process. And people go, oh my God, I love that. That's so good. It's so good. And like what I just said, life wants you to make a mess or be a mess. And it's like, oh, wow. But the thing is, nobody actually wants to make a mess. And nobody ever wants to be a mess because it's messy, right? So it's so funny that we love the memes, but when you're in it, when you're in the mess and when you are a mess, it's like the last place you want to be. But what I've learned is that there's miracles in the mess. And I want to invite you back to the very day that I began to not trust this idea, but test it. So this is back, and this is about love, right? You know, love is kind. Love is like all those wedding verses that we hear at every single wedding we go to. Love is kind. Love is patient. And love is a hot mess. So that's the truth. And so it was literally 19 years ago. So I was 26. Don't do the math. I was 26, and the millennium had just 2000, when we all thought we were going to die, when the clock struck over on New Year's Eve and all the computers were going to go dead and we were all going to just fall on the floor and not exist after that. Well, we had survived that. And there was this feeling of like, wow, we survived that. Nothing happened. It was like a massive disappointment. In a way, not really. Not that we wanted to leave, but anyway. And I just felt this renewed sense of like a new beginning, the beginning of a new millennium, and I am ready to do things differently. So I was at this job that I'd been at for a while, and I thought, you know what? And my life was pretty even keeled. I had done a lot of work on myself, and I was ready to open myself up to love. And that sounds like quite a drastic statement, to open myself up to love. And you think, well, what's that all about? Why are you opening yourself up to love at 26? What the heck? Well, my relationship with love up until that point had been pretty messy, pretty weird, it was just a hot mess. And what I had learned about love up until that point asked me to do everything very differently moving forward. And so when I said I want to open myself up to love, it's all well and good. I want to open myself up to love, like a great meme. And I was like, okay, well, don't just do that. That's all well and good, but set yourself up. So I needed a plan because things up until that point hadn't gone very well. So I decided on my own, this is before self-help even entered my space. I was still pretty asleep at this point, but I knew I needed to do something differently because up until that point, love meant a lot of things that didn't work well for me. As a deep feeler and an empath and a helper, my mantra in life was to serve and to love. When I was born, I just came here to love, and I love with everything I had. And what I had learned up until that point was that love was about sacrifice. Love was about sacrificing my own needs for someone else's. It was about giving until I had nothing left. And I thought there was something very noble about that, and that maybe there'd be a place in heaven for me special because I was absolutely committed to that idea. Because that's what we do when we love somebody. We just open up our doors and we say, here is who I am. Here is what you get. Off you go. And what had happened with that pattern in my life of showing up in relationships, whether it was with people in my family or loved ones or romantic partners, which didn't happen until much later in life because I realized how tricky love can be, is that what I learned was when I did that, all I ended up was empty shelves. I just had empty shelves. And I had nothing left for me. And that just led into some really tricky, complicated places. So what I did was I decided, one of those tricky relationships, it was my first love, and he took me by the hand. See, back then I also thought love was, you love me, you said it, you love me, I'll take your hand. And I walked with them. I just decided that if they loved me, I guess I thought it was automatic. That was it. I guess that's how it worked. And that led me into a lot of tricky places, like I said, codependency, very emotionally abusive relationship with a rather mentally ill narcissist and manic depressive artist, tortured artist. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you. I feel very validated by that. Gut punch that you just honored me with. Thank you. I spent 7 years too long in that relationship, and it stripped everything of me, my identity. He took until I realized that there was nothing I could do or be that would ever change anything. And that all of my ideas about love were pretty much collapsed with the trying. Every time I tried and the same thing happened again and again, it just proved that wasn't it, that wasn't love, and that love wasn't enough. And that was a very big lesson for me. But what do you do with that when you realize love isn't enough? So what I did was, well, if I want to do this, if I want to have love in my life, if I want to create something different, I have to do a few things first. I can't just expect it to happen. So I sat down and I named what happened. I said, well, what happened? Where did things go wrong? And I had a lot to say about that. So I had a massive piece of paper with all the words and experiences, and I just vomited it all out. I just told the truth. This happened. he did this. I tolerated that. I allowed this behavior. Here was my place in all of it. And I admitted all of my stuff to myself. That was the first step. And I said to myself, well, if I don't want any of this anymore, what do I do with all of this? And this one agreement, it felt like a sentence just popped out, one thread the thread that wove through every single word on that piece of paper was that every time I'd felt compromised, I just went along. I was just go along to get along, girl. Don't rock the boat. Don't upset anyone. Apparently, my idea of love was keep it really clean, keep it really tight, keep it smooth, keep it nice, be nice. If you're not nice, you won't get love. And I looked at that thread of that allowing and the tolerating, the putting up with, and I realized the one thing that I did consistently was just tolerate really bad behavior and disrespecting myself. So this sentence popped up. Well, the new rule I could have is every time I feel compromised, I'll speak up. And I thought, what's my next one? And nothing came. Because that was pretty solid. And I thought, well, that would really change things. But that wasn't enough. I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do if I feel compromised? And I put a few ground rules in place. One thing I would just say, like, because I don't want to be weird and all of a sudden like speak up and just upset everybody because I'm still like that deep feeler, please like me, people pleaser. And I realized, well, I'm going to have to speak up somehow. But I want to open myself up to love. So I'll figure this out. And so what I did was I was like, all right, I'm ready. So I was at work one day and I thought, well, I'm really bored. This email thing has just showed up. This is also a history lesson, by the way, because we're going back into 2000 when the internet was like just brand new and nobody really understood it. And this is also before dating online. So this is where we had these classified ads. So Yahoo, MSN, Hotmail, I'm trying to think, Excite.com, they were like newspapers online. And they actually kind of looked that way too. On their homepage, you'd have all these little boxes and things. And there was this weird little box that said classifieds. And so one day, for whatever reason, I was obviously very bored and I clicked on it and it was like all of a sudden I was in this new place, classified ads. And it was like love, men seeking women. Oh, that's oh my God, you can do this online? This is like crazy. And it was like men seeking men. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Or that's even cooler. And it was like women seeking women. And then it was like other. And I was like, what is that? So I clicked in other, which I definitely don't recommend anybody do because there was a whole bunch of things in there that I didn't want to see or know about. And then I pulled back out and saw pen pals. And I thought, pen pals. Wow. There is a blast from the past, pen pals. And my friends to this day are like, I can't believe you clicked on pen pals because you have friends. And I was like, I know, but it just was so interesting to me. So I hit pen pals and all of a sudden I'm like inspired. I'm like, what if I go traveling? What if I go and visit so-and-so and I'm going to go to Ireland. That's what I'm going to do. That's where my family is. So I'm going to put this ad and I'm going to find a pen pal in Ireland. And so anyway, I do this. I put this ad out in the pen pals section and I say, well, I'm only just wanting to meet people, and I put very specific terms. Don't ask me what I'm wearing, because I thought that was a thing. I thought that was like a, what are you wearing conversation I didn't want to have. And no, who's your daddy? I literally wrote that in the ad. No, quote unquote, who's your daddy? And I thought it was been quite funny. And I put a picture of me from the New Year's Eve party, and it was very cute. I had these like Uma Thurman bangs and this really little baby bangs with a cropped thing. And it was all very sassy. And I thought, well, that's cool. And I hit send and put it in Ireland and off it goes. And I thought, well, this is the beginning of a new thing right here. This is like, I'm on the cutting edge of technology here. And this is back in the day when if you got one email, it was worth telling everybody about. It was like, oh my God, this thing works. There's another person that sent me a message and like, I'm going to answer it. And I don't know, things are going to happen. And the next day I came to work, opened up my email because I didn't even have a computer at home. And all of a sudden, my email went nuts. And I had like 45 emails. And I was like, oh my, what has happened? I've broken the internet, which is so funny now because 45 emails is nothing. But back then it was just what has happened? And I just froze. And I was like, what have I done? And all of them said, Irish girl, Irish girl, Irish girl. And I'm like, my family's from Ireland, but I'm not Irish. What has happened? And I started opening up these emails. And a few of the emails were quite interesting. First of all, they were like, hey, Irish girl. I'm like, okay, I got to sort that out. The first email was like, hi, my name Ikbar. I know fat. Right back. And I was like, oh, Ikbar. Oh, you're not fat. Well, here's my social security number and my PIN. Let's hang out. Like, it was the weirdest thing. I know. And so he was from like Iraq. Then there was this guy from Australia. There was a cowboy in Texas. There was somebody that actually wanted to pay me for pictures of my feet. And then there was this other person that said I was going to go to hell because I looked like a dominatrix. Then there was another person that asked me to be in their dominatrix group and they would pay me for that. And this is like unbelievable to me. I'm just like, what have I done? None of them are from Ireland. None. And I realized, and they're all calling me Irish girl. And I realized, oh my God, when I said location, I literally was like, I would like this to go to Ireland, please. Like, not location where you're from. So I felt really stupid. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? But in these 45 emails, there were like a handful of them. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why would I talk to a cowboy in Kansas? Why would I talk to this guy in Denver? And why would I talk to this guy in Australia? But I thought, well, I don't know, like, I'll let them know what happened and off we go. So I let them all know, sorry, I'm a mistake. I'm not Irish. I mean, I am, but I'm not, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, if you still want to talk, I'm happy to keep talking, even though I don't know why we're talking because anyway, whatever. And I start getting emails back and it's quite interesting. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm talking to a cowboy from Kansas. I'm talking to somebody from Australia. I'm like feeling very worldly and so open. And this guy in Denver, he and I start having like some pretty cool conversations. He's pretty funny. He's pretty cute. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. I don't even know where that's going to go. But all of a sudden he's like, what do you do? And well, here's what I do. And he's like this, software consultant that flies around the country. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And so I tell him what I do. I do all this stuff. I'm in customer service. I'm in marketing. I do all these things, I wear all these different hats. And I'm feeling like really like representing myself and I'm showing up for myself. And then I get the next email from him and he starts saying, oh, so you're like a glorified gopher, dog's body, secretary, insult, insult, insult. And I'm like, well, here it is. Here we are. There, because every piece every cell in my body is like enraged that someone would make fun of what I did. Not even make fun, but like insult me like that. And it was like the 26 years up until that point of repression just rose up from the ground and right through my fingertips because I never, ever got to fully express how I actually felt every single time I felt compromised. And it was like every single one of those moments, just like, how dare you? And I was like, well, today's a new day. And I hit reply and I just started saying, well, at least I'm not a glorified computer nerd. Isn't your Dungeons and Dragons group calling? Loser. And a few expletives also. Why don't you go F yourself, effer, you a-hole. Like I was completely mental. I lost my mind and I just let him have everything I had. And I hit send. And off it went. And I was born new. And I literally stood up in my office and I was doing this. I had guns. I had my gun fingers out. And I was like, yeah, oh, yes. And my girlfriend, who was also my employee, was like, what? And I was like, you don't even know what I just did. I just broke decades of pathology and patterns. And like, I'm just like, I'm killing it here. I don't know that guy. That felt amazing. And all of a sudden I hear this diddle-doo. And I was like, what? what was happening? And he'd written me right back. Like, it was all happening in real time, people. And that, for me, was a real, like, what is, like, the internet? There was a real internet moment right there. And I was like, we're going to call that an internet moment. And I was like, oh, God, just the reality of him in real time, knowing that I hadn't thought it through. So so here I am. I'm just like, oh, shoot. He wrote me back. Okay. So I was like this, beep, to open it, just having to confront like my really weird and bad behavior. And so I was like, okay. And all of a sudden I look thinking, oh, he's going to let me have it. This is it. Oh my God, I'm a drama magnet still. And all I saw was, I think we're going to like our little chats, with a smiley face. And I don't know what happened in that moment, but this visceral feeling just overcame me of like, it was a real cocktail of what? Like, that was unexpected. I was expecting to get like absolute rage back at me. And he was kind of into it, which also was super weird. And I was like, this guy either has no game at all. And oh my God, oh, he was joking. Oh, he was like being funny. And I did not, I'm like really damaged. I was so triggered that I didn't even see that. I was like taking it, and I just felt so revealed to him and to myself in that moment about how broken I was and how totally not ready for love I was, because I was super sensitive, obviously, and not safe for human consumption. That he had basically just been like, I think I'm like, I was like, I was actually intrigued, which sounds really sick. But I kind of was. I was like, that's different. I did not expect that. And I was like, well, okay, I have to explain. Okay, so I'm really effed up. So I had to explain a little effed up. Okay, so I've had a few years of like some emotional abuse and like, anyway, but what I want to say about that is it opened something up that I didn't expect. First of all, I never expected that man to become my husband. We've been we've been together for 19 years. And what I love about that moment is that what I didn't know at the time, is that what I had done by being absolutely batshit crazy in the moment was that I gave us a foundation where I could be my normal, regular, empathetic, caring, considerate self for the most part, 90% of the time. But what I had unknowingly opened was that I could also be batshit crazy, which is quite a bit of range. And from that range, what we ended up building was a foundation of a foundation of truth, where I could be seen in my crazy and also in my calm, that I could show up now anywhere between 0 and 100, and he was still willing to stay in the room. And that opened something up that I had never really experienced before. That in respecting myself, even though it looked really messy, and it was really messy, it was the beginning of many messies moving forward. But it laid a ground rule for both of us, that we could do that with each other, that we could show up in our calm, but we could also show up in our crazy. And to be able to open up that range in our relationship was accidental, you might want to say. But I know on a very soul level, it was very much on purpose, because that is nothing I would actually have chosen consciously to do, but I was led into it through the mess. And it created a miracle in my life, because that respect that I showed myself demanded it from every interaction moving forward with him. And that love wasn't enough. But what I had offered myself was an opening to receive even more than love. Things like respect and consideration and boundaries and open, honest communication. And what a gift that messy, messy moment not only saved my life, but it also saved his. Because he was just as messed up as I was. And I was able to learn that because I was messy with him. That messiness is contagious, and that vulnerability is viral when you're willing to bare yourself to yourself, in front of yourself and another. And that's what I've learned about love, that people think intimacy is about sex, when really it's about being seen in your truth, no matter how messy it is. And that person wants to stay in the room and be with you still, and to also share that back and be seen right back. And so I guess there's an invitation with this talk, that if there are areas in your life where maybe you're a little too tidy, maybe you're coloring in the lines and you've been doing that for maybe a little bit too long, that it's not too late. I know some people are like, well, she started it off that way, but what about really long-standing, substantial, like relationships that you're like locked in? And what I know to be true about that is that it's never too late. It's never too late to have that begin again moment and say, you know what? Do the same thing that I did, is like, look at what you've been agreeing to. Look at what you've been tolerating. And you don't have to go out and admit it to them right away, but you get to admit it to yourself first. I call that admit your shit. So you got to admit your shit. And from there, then you get to admit it to others and invite a different conversation about what's possible moving forward in a deeper truth, to be seen in your truth. And yeah, because sometimes that invitation to be a mess is a miracle. And perhaps you're the miracle you've been waiting for. Thank you.